Chapter 1: A Cup of Beginnings. Sophie's life revolved around the warm, bustling space of Bean There, a cozy coffee shop nestled on a lively corner of Lower Manhattan. With its exposed brick walls adorned with local artwork and shelves filled with an eclectic mix of books, the cafe served as a haven not just for coffee lovers, but for those seeking a quiet escape from the city's relentless pace. Every morning, as the sun peeked through the tall windows, Sophie would be there behind the counter, her smile as invigorating as the coffee she brewed. Her regulars depended on her not just for their caffeine fix, but for the cheerful banter and the sense of community she nurtured. Among these regulars was Max, a young graphic designer with an easy charm and a penchant for caramel macchiatos. Today, like most days, Max arrived with his laptop under one arm and a hopeful look in his eyes. He greeted Sophie with a nod and a smile, claiming his usual spot by the window. The cafe buzzed with the usual morning crowd, students, writers, and the occasional group of tourists. Sophie's attention, however, was increasingly captured not just by the familiar faces, but by the worn suggestion box sitting by the door. It was an old tradition she had started. Customers could drop in notes, anything from feedback on the coffee to bits of advice they sought. Lately, Sophie found herself more excited about reading these slips of paper than she would admit. As the morning rush waned, she finally opened the box. Among the usual comments about coffee blends and requests for more vegan pastries, a note written in a bold, clear script caught her eye. "Let's share a secret, shall we? Today, I left my apartment wearing 2 different socks." "Your turn." Sophie chuckled, glancing over at Max, who was deeply engrossed in his work. Could it be him? The thought intrigued her. On a whim, she grabbed a pen and scribbled a reply, her heart fluttering slightly with the thrill of this new, anonymous game. "I'm terrified of birds." Silly, isn't it? She slipped her note back into the box, her eyes meeting Max's as he looked up. He smiled, a silent question lingering in his eyes, but Sophie only smiled back, a secret now floating between them, waiting to be discovered. Chapter 2: Notes in the Box. Over the following weeks, the suggestion box at Bean There became a mysterious conduit for Sophie and her secret correspondent. Every day brought a new note, a new revelation, each one penned with the same bold script that had first caught her eye. Sophie found herself eagerly anticipating the end of each rush, her fingers itching to open the box and discover what secret lay waiting for her. Max, too, seemed to linger longer over his coffee these days, often glancing over at the box as if it held some sort of treasure just for him. His presence, once just a comforting routine in the backdrop of her busy mornings, now sparked a flutter of excitement whenever he walked through the door. One particularly rainy Tuesday, as the cafe hummed with the sound of rain tapping against the windows and the low murmur of scattered conversations, Sophie found the day's note waiting. Secret of the day: "I've never been to the Statue of Liberty. I've lived here all my life, but some landmarks remain unvisited." Sophie laughed softly as she read it, her eyes involuntarily seeking Max, who was staring out the window, seemingly lost in thought. It seemed such a quintessential New York confession, and it made Max seem more real, more endearing. Without hesitation, she grabbed a pen and wrote back. "I've never watched Star Wars. Everyone says it's a classic, but I just haven't gotten around to it." She dropped the note back into the box, a small thrill running through her. This simple exchange, anonymous yet intimate, had quickly become the highlight of her day. The next morning, Sophie opened the cafe earlier than usual, her curiosity piqued by what Max's potential reply might reveal about him. As the regulars shuffled in, nodding their greetings or murmuring thanks as she handed them their preferred drinks, Sophie felt a buzz of anticipation. Finally, when a quiet moment came, she reached for the note. This time, the message was a bit longer, more reflective. "It's funny how we miss out on things right on our doorstep, isn't it? Maybe it's about time I visit that statue. And maybe you should join the galaxy far, far away. Could be a new adventure for both of us." Sophie felt a warmth spread through her chest. The notes were slowly bridging the gap between them, turning daily routines into a shared adventure. She wondered if Max felt the same thrill, the same connection over these small confessions. Determined to keep the game interesting, Sophie wrote her response with a more playful tone. Proposal: we both tackle our unvisited landmarks before the month ends. It's a deal, stranger. She dropped the note into the box, her heart skipping a beat. The game had just taken a new turn, inviting not just confessions, but perhaps, soon, a real-life meeting. As she watched Max from across the room, she wondered if he'd accept the challenge, and more importantly, if this little game might evolve into something beyond just notes in a box. Chapter 3: Latte Art and Confessions. As autumn rolled into New York, the air crisp and the leaves turning gold, the suggestion box game at Bean There took on a deeper, more confessional tone. The playful exchanges had evolved into heartfelt admissions, each note revealing layers of the two anonymous writers' lives and characters. One chilly morning, Sophie created an intricate leaf design atop the foam of a latte. The cafe was quieter now, the tourist season ebbing away, leaving more space for the locals and their routines. Max came in, as usual, shaking off the cold, his cheeks tinged pink from the brisk wind. He ordered his caramel macchiato, and their fingers brushed as she handed him the cup, sending a tiny shockwave through her. Their eyes met, a moment suspended in time, before he retreated to his usual spot. That day, the note in the box read, "I used to paint, a long time ago. I stopped when it stopped feeling like freedom and started feeling like a chore. But sometimes, I miss the smell of the oils and the feel of the brush in my hand." Sophie read it twice, touched by the vulnerability of the confession. She wondered if Max was the artist, if the man who seemed so composed and collected had once found solace in strokes of color on a blank canvas. Inspired, she decided to reply in kind, her confession just as personal. "I used to sing in a choir at school. I stopped because of stage fright. Now, I only sing in the shower or when the cafe is empty." Later that day, after the lunch crowd had thinned, Max approached the counter, a rare move from his usual routine. He leaned in slightly, lowering his voice. "I think I'd like to hear you sing sometime," he said, a tentative smile playing on his lips. "Maybe I could paint you while you do." Sophie felt her heart race, her earlier shyness melting into a warm flush of anticipation. "Maybe," she said, her voice a mix of hope and hesitation. "Maybe we could share more than just secrets and coffee." From then on, their interactions were tinged with a new layer of intimacy. Sophie started spending more time crafting her latte art, each cup a silent message to Max. And he, in turn, began leaving sketches along with his notes, quick, beautiful drawings that spoke of his hidden talent. One particularly rainy Thursday, a note from Max awaited her, with a small, folded piece of paper tucked inside. "It's easy to forget what makes us happy when life gets in the way. I took out my old paints last night. It felt good. Thank you for reminding me of who I used to be." Enclosed was a sketch of Bean There, seen from his usual spot by the window. The strokes were confident, the details lovingly rendered. Sophie held it, feeling as if she were not only holding a piece of art, but a piece of Max's soul. Her reply that day was simple, yet filled with the burgeoning feelings she was beginning to acknowledge. "Tonight, after closing, I'll sing for you. If you bring your paints, we can make art together. Just us and the whispers of our past." The stage was set, their confessions paving the way for a night that might just intertwine their lives more deeply than they had ever imagined. Chapter 4: The Flavor of the Past. The evening promised to be one of revelation and rediscovery. Sophie stayed late to prepare the cafe for their private gathering, her heart fluttering with a mix of excitement and nervousness. She arranged the chairs to face each other and set up a small, informal stage area by the bookshelves. Dimmed lights cast a soft, inviting glow, creating a sanctuary from the bustling city outside. Max arrived just as Sophie finished setting up, carrying his old, worn canvas bag bulging with paint tubes and brushes. His eyes lit up at the sight of the transformed cafe, now a cozy cocoon for their shared vulnerabilities. I haven't painted like this in a long time, he admitted, setting up his easel in a corner. It feels right to start again here, with you. Sophie smiled, her earlier anxieties melting away in the warmth of Max's sincere expression. She turned on a soft playlist in the background, a gentle acoustic melody that filled the space between them. As she started the first song, her voice shaky from nerves, Max began to paint. His strokes were tentative at first, then grew more confident as the music seemed to guide his hand. Their evening unfolded with a rhythm of its own, Sophie's voice gaining strength and Max's canvas blossoming with colors. During a brief interlude, as Sophie sipped her tea to soothe her throat, Max shared more about his past. I used to think that my art had to say something profound, to resonate with grand themes and emotions. But tonight, it's just about this moment, the piece of it, and the person sharing it with me. Sophie, touched by his words, shared her own reflections. I always thought my singing had to be perfect, that every note had to be right. But singing for you, it's just real. And that feels perfect to me. They continued their exchange of stories and songs, each confession drawing them closer. Max spoke of his estranged family, how he had left home young to pursue his dreams in the city, and how art had been his only companion through lonely years. Sophie talked about her mother, a once vibrant woman whose voice had filled their home with music, now quieted by illness. As the night deepened, they found themselves discussing their dreams, the past blending into hopes for the future. Sophie confessed her desire to one day open a larger cafe, one that could host live music and art nights. Max revealed his wish to exhibit his paintings, to reconnect with the art world he had left behind. The session ended with Max's painting revealing a stunning depiction of Sophie as she sang, the colors capturing not just her image, but the essence of her passion for music. Sophie was moved to tears by the portrayal, seeing herself through Max's eyes, not just the cafe owner, but a singer, an artist in her own right. This night, Max said, as they stood together admiring the painting, it's more than I could have hoped for. It's not just about rediscovering painting. It's about discovering you. Sophie reached out, her hand brushing his. And for me, it's about seeing myself as more than I thought I was. Thank you, for this, for everything. They left the cafe long after midnight, the city's chill unable to touch the warmth that enveloped them. The night had changed them, their shared confessions and creations weaving a new tapestry in their lives, one rich with the colors and melodies of their intertwined pasts and, perhaps, their shared future. Chapter 5, A Dash of Jealousy. The weeks following their intimate evening of art and music saw a subtle shift in the dynamics between Sophie and Max. The cafe remained a hub of warmth and camaraderie, but the air was now tinged with a new, unspoken understanding, a mutual recognition of the deeper connection that had formed between them. Their interactions, once playful and casual, had taken on layers of meaning, filled with shared glances and smiles that lingered a moment too long. However, this newfound closeness was not without its complications. Enter Julia, a new barista hired to help manage the increasing crowds at Bean There. Julia was bright and quick-witted, with a natural charm that made her instantly popular among the regulars. Her arrival brought a fresh energy to the cafe, and she quickly adapted to the rhythm of the place, her laughter blending seamlessly with the clinking of coffee cups and the murmur of customer chatter. Sophie noticed how Julia's presence seemed to particularly captivate Max. He engaged with her effortlessly, their conversations flowing easily over the counter as he waited for his daily caramel macchiato. Sophie couldn't help but feel a twinge of something unfamiliar as she watched them from across the room. Was it irritation? Insecurity? Or perhaps, jealousy? This new emotion brewed within Sophie, surprising her with its intensity. She had never considered herself a jealous person, but seeing Max so animated with someone else stirred a discomfort she couldn't easily dismiss. The suggestion box, once a private link between her and Max, now sat forgotten for days at a time, a stark reminder of the changing tides. Determined to understand her feelings, Sophie tried to engage Julia in conversation, hoping to quell the irrational surge of envy. Julia was open and friendly, sharing stories of her previous job at a bustling cafe downtown and her dreams of traveling to Italy to learn more about espresso art. I really admire how you and Max have such a great rapport, Sophie ventured cautiously, testing the waters. Julia laughed, her eyes bright. Oh, Max is great. He's been super welcoming. It's nice to have someone to talk to who's as passionate about art as I am. Sophie nodded, her smile tight. The confirmation of their common interests only added to her unease. She watched as Julia artfully poured steamed milk into a cup, creating a perfect rosetta. It was clear Julia was talented, perhaps even more skilled than Sophie in some aspects of coffee making. Later that day, as Sophie was closing up, Max lingered behind, a rare occurrence since Julia's arrival. He seemed hesitant, his usual ease replaced by a certain awkwardness. Sophie, are we okay? Max finally broke the silence, his voice tinged with concern. I've noticed you've been a bit distant. Did I do something wrong? Sophie hesitated, then decided to be honest. It's nothing you did, Max. It's just, seeing you with Julia, laughing and talking, it made me realize how much She trailed off, unable to articulate her burgeoning feelings, her fear of their friendship changing. Max stepped closer, his expression softening. Sophie, you're important to me. More than just a friend. I've been a fool if I made you feel otherwise. Relief washed over Sophie, mingled with a newfound courage. I guess I've been feeling a bit jealous, she admitted, her cheeks flushing with the admission. Max smiled, his eyes warm. Jealous, huh? I think I can fix that. How about we bring back our note game? Just us. And maybe add some new rules to keep things interesting? Sophie nodded, her heart lighter. I'd like that. And maybe we could have our own project, something just for the two of us. As Max agreed, the last strains of tension dissolved between them. They left the cafe together, their steps in sync, a plan forming to explore new creative ventures, together. The dash of jealousy had served as a catalyst, a reminder of the depth of their feelings, pushing them towards a clearer understanding of the unique bond they shared. Chapter 6: The Blend of Truth. The revival of the note game infused being there with a renewed sense of playfulness and intimacy between Sophie and Max. They reinstated their ritual with a new rule: each note had to propose a small challenge or a question that encouraged personal growth or deeper understanding. This twist added excitement to their interactions and allowed them to explore facets of each other's lives and thoughts that had previously gone unspoken. However, as autumn deepened into winter, bringing with it shorter days and colder nights, the cafe faced its own set of challenges. A new coffee shop opened nearby, boasting modern technology and a sleek design that attracted a large portion of Sophie's clientele. The competition strained Sophie's finances and spirits, casting a shadow over her usually vibrant workspace. One particularly slow afternoon, as Max watched the sparse crowd, he sensed Sophie's mounting stress. He left a note in the box, not just to lighten the mood but to address the elephant in the room. How can we make being there stand out in this new landscape? Sophie found the note later that day, her heart tightening. The reality of her situation was daunting, but Max's proactive approach sparked a flicker of hope. She wrote back, "Let's brainstorm tonight. I'm all ears for any crazy ideas." That evening, after the last customer left, Sophie and Max sat down with cups of coffee, surrounded by notepads and pens, ready to tackle the problem head-on. They threw around ideas, from hosting live music nights to offering coffee workshops and art classes. As they talked, the conversation shifted from professional strategies to more personal revelations. Max noticed Sophie's reluctance to discuss her financial worries and decided it was time to confront the issue more directly. Sophie, I know you're worried about the finances, Max started, his tone gentle. I want to help, not just with ideas, but maybe I can contribute some investment too. I believe in this place, in you. Sophie was taken aback by the offer, her initial reaction one of prideful resistance. She had always prided herself on her independence, her ability to manage on her own. Yet, as she looked into Max's earnest eyes, she realized this was not just a business transaction, it was an offer of support, a testament to his faith in their shared dreams. The blend of truth between them was bittersweet. Sophie admitted her fears about losing the cafe, her anchor and her dream. Max listened, his presence a steady comfort. He shared his own experiences with financial uncertainties when he first pursued his art, how vulnerable and alone he had felt. Their conversation deepened, strengthening their bond. Sophie slowly opened up about her deeper insecurities, not just about the business, but about her capabilities as a leader and visionary. Max reassured her, emphasizing her unique strengths, her creativity, and her ability to create a community where people felt at home. By the end of the night, they had outlined a plan to revitalize being there, incorporating both of their strengths. Max's investment would ease the immediate financial pressure, allowing them to implement new ideas without the looming threat of failure. As they locked up the cafe, the air between them was lighter, their partnership stronger. They had confronted the blend of truth in their professional and personal lives, emerging more united, their relationship fortified by honesty and mutual support. Walking home together under the crisp starry sky, they felt a renewed sense of purpose and anticipation for the future, confident in their ability to face any challenge as long as they had each other. Chapter 7: Whispers Among the Beans. The days following Sophie and Max's heart-to-heart were buzzing with energy and new ideas at being there. The cafe began to transform as they implemented their revitalized vision. From the warm glow of new lighting fixtures to the fresh paint on the walls, every change added a layer of charm and invitation. One significant addition was the monthly art and music night, which quickly became a hit. Locals loved the vibrant atmosphere, where they could enjoy live performances and view art exhibitions, creating a cultural hub within the community. Sophie's confidence soared as she saw her dream evolving into something even more meaningful than she had envisioned. As Being There regained its popularity, Sophie and Max found their relationship deepening in unexpected ways. They were not only business partners and friends, but were slowly weaving a tapestry of shared experiences that hinted at something more profound. One quiet morning, before the cafe opened, Max set up a small display in a corner. It was an array of photographs he had taken of the cafe and its patrons, each image capturing a story, a moment of life within the walls of Being There. As Sophie admired the display, Max handed her a special photograph. "This one's my favorite," he said, showing her a candid shot of Sophie laughing with a group of regulars. "It shows who you really are to this place. You're not just running a cafe, you're creating a home." Sophie was touched, her eyes misting over. "I couldn't have done this without you, Max. You've brought so much to my life, to this cafe." Their morning was spent in a comfortable camaraderie, preparing the cafe for the day ahead. As they worked, they shared whispers among the coffee beans and the pastries, their conversation a blend of daily logistics and personal anecdotes. With every story and every shared laugh, their connection deepened. However, amidst this newfound happiness, Sophie struggled with a growing realization of her feelings for Max. She cherished their partnership and feared that expressing her feelings might jeopardize what they had built together. But as the cafe filled with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, she knew she couldn't keep her feelings hidden any longer. Later that day, as they closed up, Sophie decided to take a leap of faith. "Max, can we talk? There's something I need to tell you. They sat at their favorite table, the one by the window where the evening light spilled over in golden waves. Sophie took a deep breath, her hands clasped tightly together. Max, these past months, everything that we've been through, it's made me realize something. She paused, looking into his eyes, searching for any sign of what he might be feeling. I care about you, Max. More than just as a friend or a partner. I love you. The confession hung in the air, a fragile whisper among the stronger currents of their shared life. Max reached across the table, taking her hands in his. His voice was soft, but his eyes were intense with emotion. Sophie, I've been waiting to hear you say that. I've felt the same for a long time. I didn't want to push you, to rush this. Relief and joy flooded through Sophie, mingling with a love that felt as natural as breathing. They leaned across the table, their first kiss a gentle affirmation of everything unsaid, a promise made among the whispers of the cafe that had brought them together. As they parted, smiles touching their lips, they knew their journey together was just beginning. Their love, like the cafe, would continue to grow, enriched by every shared moment and every whispered dream among the beans. Chapter 8, Last Cup, New Beginnings. The spring brought with it a flourish of renewal and growth, both for being there and for Sophie and Max. The cafe thrived, pulsing with new life as their community events drew in crowds, and the bonds within the neighborhood strengthened. It was a testament to their hard work and to the love that now openly flowed between them. One sunny afternoon, as the cafe hummed with the chatter of a busy lunch crowd, Sophie and Max sat together planning yet another addition to their beloved space, a small library corner where customers could exchange books and share stories. Their conversations now seamlessly blended discussions of future projects with shared coffee breaks, each moment reinforcing the strength of their partnership and the depth of their affection. As they worked, Max looked around the bustling cafe, his gaze finally resting on Sophie. You know, every end of the day feels like the last cup of coffee. Satisfying, but you always look forward to the next one. Sophie smiled, squeezing his hand. And every morning is a new beginning, isn't it? With you, every day feels like a fresh start. Their relationship had become the heartbeat of being there, inspiring not just them, but also those around them. They were more than just cafe owners, they were a part of people's lives, facilitators of community spirit and camaraderie. However, amidst this bustling activity, Sophie carried a joyful secret that she planned to reveal to Max that evening. She had discovered a few weeks back that they were going to be parents. The knowledge had filled her with an immense joy and a bit of apprehension about the future. But more than anything, she was eager to embark on this new chapter with Max by her side. As the day wound down and the last customer left, Sophie took Max's hand and led him to their favorite table by the window. The cafe was quiet now, bathed in the warm glow of the setting sun. Max, I have something to tell you, Sophie began, her voice trembling slightly with emotion. Something that's going to start our next big adventure. Max's eyes widened, sensing the importance of the moment. What is it, Sophie? Taking a deep breath, Sophie shared the news, we're going to have a baby, Max. The joy and surprise on Max's face mirrored the emotions swirling within Sophie. He stood up, pulling her into his arms, his laughter mingling with tears of happiness. A baby, we're going to have a baby. They held each other in the soft light, their hearts full of dreams for the future. They talked about hopes and fears, about how they would manage their growing business and a new baby. But more than anything, they spoke of love, the love that had grown in unexpected ways and had now blossomed into the promise of a family. I love you, Sophie. And I'm going to love our little one so much, Max whispered, his words a vow. I love you too, Max. And I can't wait to see you as a dad. As the evening gave way to night, they remained there, plans and dreams spilling over like the coffee they poured, a symbol of their life together, rich and brimming with possibility. The last cup of the day at Bean there had been served, but for Sophie and Max, it was indeed just the beginning of another beautiful journey. With each new day, they would fill more cups, share more moments, and weave the fabric of their family life, one beautiful, messy, and joyful stitch at a time.